the safety or security of the community and bringing the perpetrators thereof to justice. In realization of the aforesaid commitment, I shall at all times uphold the Constitution and the law, be guided by the needs of the community, give full recognition to the needs of the South African Police Service as employer, and cooperate with the community, the government at every level, and all other related role players in order to achieve a safe and secure environment for all the people of South Africa. I undertake to, with integrity, render a responsible and effective service of high quality which is accessible to every person and continuously strive towards improving this service. Utilize all the available resources responsibly, efficiently, and cost-effectively to maximize their use. Develop my own skills and participate in the development of my fellow members to ensure equal opportunities for all. Contribute to reconstruction and development of the reconciliation in our country. Uphold and protect the fundamental rights of every person. Act impartially, conscientiously, honestly, respectfully, transparently, and in accountable manner. Exercise the powers conferred upon me in responsible and controlled manner, and work effectively towards preventing any form of corruption and to bring the perpetrators thereof to justice.
Sanibonani and welcome to another locally made but globally great episode of Thetha SABC1. Sithi sathela phakathi enyangeni of what we call Mandela Month, celebrating the legacy of Ubaba Madiba, but also looking at the things that he wished that we could achieve and strive for. Amongst them, ukubheka umsebenzi wamaphoyisa was one of the things that we found to be very important. Looking at how amaphoyisa play such a pivotal role emphakathini, kodwa phinde sibheke ukuthi kunezinto abazenzayo ezingekho emthethweni that have found us not being comfortable.
I think we dare say we need to remind the South African Police Service they are a service.
Yeah.
Understand?
And that's exactly what you saw from the opening of the show, is what is being said by Amapoyisa. It is their code of conduct that they pledge to serve. They pledge ukuthi basivikela. Kodwa kanjani kube yibona futhi abahluphayo. Ngithi ngibingelele ekhaya ngegama umelodwa kaMia, uCwanini usibe uzizwe umunja lo. Sisa samsodwa samona siswethu sisandiswa wakhe bashe, who is our sign language interpreter. Now, research yakhombisa ukuthi amaphoyisa in the past they found themselves ungasibona who are on the right side of the law, but rather on the wrong side of the law. And that has left us confused as umphakathi, because we believe and see ukuthi amaphoyisa are there to protect us. But if they are the same people, manje ekumele sibaleke nabo sibabalekele, because we don't even know it's good cop or bad cop, Nicolette.
Sure, it's quite interesting to have this type of a conversation, because the Institute of Security Studies has come out with quite interesting statistics, right? Now, they're saying that the budget that is allocated to the South African Police Service has gone up by 44%. Now, despite this budget and this increase, they're still unable to actually lower the detection rate, especially for major crimes like your murder, like your robberies, right? But on top of that, the criminal statistics of those two, especially those two groupings, murder and robberies, have gone up by 39%, 35% in fact, for murder and 39% for robberies. Now, another thing. They spoke a little bit about upholding the Constitution and the law. But the policing is so poor to the fact that some of the arrests that they are making are actually unlawful. And if you're looking at the screen right now, you understand those mean that there is now people being able to make claims against the South African Police Service. And it's costing us as a taxpayer 343 million rand.
Yes, Nicolette, ngiyakuzwa. And good to hear such a high number, because I think it overlooks because there's so much good things that the police are doing, risking their lives. And you'll see on today's episode how Ogut and Ogubi end up kind of either balancing it out or questioning with why isn't there a balance.
But perhaps that's what we're asking you, when as Melody, do you trust that the police can actually help you? Do they have the skills and the training to be able to assist you when you are in trouble?
Mina ngikholelwa ukuthi they definitely do, Nicolette.
You think so?
Yeah.
But how do you then detect who is the bad cop and the good cop? Re kgopela gore join the conversation on any of our social media pages. Just remember to hashtag Daily Thetha or 011-339-1315, or please send us your voice notes and your video messages on our WhatsApp number, your Nike 0723161329.
And I guess ngene kuma voice note ngoba ngenazi emakhaya niyashesha already sekunama voice notes angenile. Ake size ukuthi nithini emakhaya.
As a South African citizen, ngiyavumelana nokuthi amaphoyisa kumele siprotecte, because masiqala sifona sicomplaina ngokuthi someone is trying to steal me, someone is trying to rape me, endaweni so amaphoyisa kumele athathe leso sikhathi leso ephuthume njenga after nje maniqeda ukudropa leyo calling batshela as a tip off, kumele basukume bathathe leso sikhathi besheshe, hayi le ndaba yokuthi bazothatha isikhathi 24 hours until someone comes and report a missing person. No, it's not right. It's not right. Amaphoyisa kumele aqale esinake esithathe serious. Mangiqala ngireport ukuthi someone is trying to rape me, kumele immediately mangidrop.
Okay, thank you for the first question. They have abilities and skills to protect us, but about 70, they accept bribery because in country it is so corrupt and all, they sabotage the justice. Akusana mehluko between a good and a bad officer, because even the good ones, they accept money from people, bribery, for example. I think angeke sakhona ukuba-trust anymore because they let us down more than we expect.
It's quite interesting. Someone can argue, after all, but do we then need to hold them to the highest standard? We've got a social media. Etang from Hope Shireen Ari. Well, as a South African, I think some of our officers do not have the necessary skills and abilities to protect us. I mean, some of our officers tend to be the ones breaking the law and even delay to help others. Some sleep on duty while serious cases is being reported, and some do not even take our cases seriously.
Some people feel that who are just put on the job because maybe akunamsebenzi. But also, I guess a video that showcases the Minister Minister of Police, when he was coming back to reinstated as the minister. I guess his Zakatini says careful.
Thanks for welcoming me, but I'm also welcoming myself back home. Mapoisa Isugi, we are not here to share the space with criminals. They must just try to get a space somewhere. Whoever declares war against us, against innocent communities, against women, against children, against elderly, uzoyithola imbi. We shall not accommodate anybody who tarnishes the name of the South African Police Service members, but also to shape their bodies to be able to jump when you go out to the field.
anytime is tea time. You can press on my buttons at 4 o'clock in the morning and say, we've got information. The job goes on. So one thing you must remember, we found this job here. And we're gonna leave this job here.
What's the boy's name?
We do consider ourselves an elite team because we do what everybody else fails to do. We work with organized crime, crime intelligence. Last week we worked with the Hawks. In this bucket there's nothing. You have to actually go out and look for something. But if you're going to patrol with this bucket all day, you're not going to find anything. The minute you start stopping vehicles and searching vehicles, you'll be surprised what you find. Us as K9, our core function is crime prevention. In progress complaints, your business robberies, your heists, your hijacking, theft of motor vehicle, dealing in drugs. We work with different law enforcement agencies where they need to follow up information and uniform can't be used. It's where we come into play. If we have information of a robbery that's going to take place, we can actually place ourselves at the robbery. Whereas with uniform, as soon as they see the uniform, they notice, they avoid, just leave everything. When you jump in this vehicle or you put on that uniform, when you greet and you leave your people or your family, make sure you leave the house on good terms. You greeted everybody nicely. One thing I don't like is my family must walk me out when I'm going to work. Because it feels as if they are taking me out the last time. You can come and plan, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. You never know what is in store for the day.
Roamagele back on Daily Thetha, a very chilling narration and explanation of the life of a K9 officer. Some of the days, or not even some, every single day when they leave, they have to be on good terms with their family members because that could be the last goodbye. And really quite an interesting compilation of this story by Eyewitness News to contextualize the conversation today Moga Daily Thetha. Because yes, while some low and high-ranking police from South Africa are involved in some crime and criminal activity, some of them even organized crime, there are, however, those police that are putting their lives on the front line and really fighting some of the deadliest criminals in South Africa.
Yes, Nicolette, sometimes but corruption a police station.
Yeah.
You know, it's something scary. Uzuguti, how many people are implicated in abuse cases? What we abuse,
But it also begs the question, what is the state of policing in South Africa? And to have the conversation, we're joined by Thato Masiangwako, who is a researcher specializing with law in society at the Socio-Economic Rights Institute. Ms. Masiangwako, welcome to Daily Thetha.
Thank you so much for having me, and good morning to your viewers.
Thank you very much for Obelerona today. Just straight into it, what is the key role of policing in Mosichabeng?
So I think what you would have heard in the oath that the police take, the police are constitutionally mandated to prevent and investigate crime, to protect members of the public and their property, and to also uphold the law and to enforce law and order, essentially. That's what is in the Constitution, and that is enshrined in Section 205, subsection 3 of the Constitution.
And Thato, would you say, looking at the current state of Amapoyisa in South Africa, is it something to be proud of when you look at the world in comparison to Mtetho?
Yeah, that is an important question, and what I think we need to begin by saying is that, you know, it's really important to emphasize that the negative feedback that the police in South Africa receive is has a negative impact on the morale of the police. However, it doesn't stem out of nowhere, and it does come from the bad experiences that members of the public have with the police. And so, with having said that, two things can be true at the same time. They are good and they are bad police. And unfortunately, in the police service, the issue is that, you know, they are tasked with upholding the law. They are custodians of the law. And when they break the rules, unfortunately, that has devastating implications on their reputation and their ability to effectively do their work. And so the argument that there are just a few bad apples, as they often like to put it, is not that there are a select few, but that they are in fact a symptom of a systemic issue that needs to be taken seriously. It's also true that South Africa is incredibly violent, and we also deal with very high levels of crime. And so in comparison to the US, police officers in South Africa are far more likely to be killed, I think at least 6 times more likely to be killed on the job than a police officer in the US. But at the same time, the police in South Africa are at least 2 or 3 times more likely to be killing members of the public. And so that is the reality that we're dealing with.
Tato, you made a reference to them upholding the law in one of your opinion pieces on inner city raids, criminal police conduct, violating privacy and dignity of citizens. How then does one trust that they understand that code of conduct?
You know, the issue with the police really stems from the top. Leadership is absolutely critical in the police, and they take a wonderful oath, as we heard. But then we have a minister of police who unfortunately speaks in a very inflammatory fashion, who seems to encourage violent policing. And we've seen the devastating implications that kind of rhetoric has had on the nature of policing, where leaders have encouraged violent policing, and they've sort of encouraged this zero tolerance approach to crime, which often gets translated into, you know, members of the public who are not necessarily criminals. So in perfectly lawful protest situations, the police are understanding protesters to be criminals, are understanding members of the public to be in breach of the law. And the response is often extremely heavy-handed, and the use of force is excessive and also unlawful. You know, the use of force that the police use often does not coincide with international law. It does not coincide with the principles of international law, which are that the use of force needs to be proportional, it has to be absolutely necessary, that it needs to be bound in law, it needs to be legal, and that necessary precaution is taken, and that accountability is present, that police officers are able to be held accountable.
Sister, before Thetha, and of course, my key question is, do you believe that we have an effective training system for Amapoisa South Africa? Because that's where everything is key.
I think there may be a lot of work that needs to be done on training. I think there's a lot of improvement that can be done, and I understand that the South African Human Rights Commission is doing a lot of work with the South African Police Service in this regard. But there needs to be a lot of emphasis on skills that focus on human rights, on upholding human rights, that equip the police with skills around de-escalation, communication. Just an example, if we're speaking about during the lockdown, the police in Ireland, as an example, adopted a 4E policy about engagement, explaining, encouragement, and enforcement. And what we saw in South Africa was the complete opposite.
But we really thank you for your time and expertise on this conversation like with Daily Thetha.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
So, now this conversation, you look here, more questions are being asked, but also something that we do not question is the greatness of what we locally made and globally become when we talk about Thetha, Mandela, and of course, have a look at the things that we speak of with Kruma Gobab Matiba.
To the youth of South Africa, it is encouraging to know that throughout all the present times and solution-seeking moments of today, you still find the courage to return to the elders.
The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers the fear.
Hope is a powerful weapon, and no one power on earth can deprive you of.
To deny people their human rights is to challenge their very humanity. To impose on them a rich life of hunger and deprivation is to dehumanize them.
The spirit of people cannot be crushed. And no matter what happens to the present leadership, new leaders will arise like mushrooms till full victory is won.
Education is the most powerful weapon which you can use to change the world.
I pay tribute to the endless heroism of youth. You, the young lions, have energized our entire struggle.
Daily Thetha celebrates Mandela Month.
Seven police officers have been arrested for corruption and defeating the ends of justice relating to yesterday's raid in the Johannesburg CBD. A warrant officer and 4 constables were arrested at the Johannesburg Central Police Station after they were caught allegedly attempting to resell some of the counterfeit goods confiscated during the raid back to the illegal traders.
After 229 days in prison, Jackie Selebi is free.
Mr. Jackie Selebi will be released today, and another offender is expected to be released next week.
But he remains under correctional supervision. Selebi was found guilty of corruption and sentenced to 15 years in July 2010. As Interpol chief, he received bribes from drug trafficker Glenn Agliotti.
During the 3-year investigation into tender fraud related to the marking of police vehicles, it emerged that the implicated police and private company directors were involved in a deliberate act to defraud the state. Among the officers arrested are those working in or linked to the supply chain department. Police say the alleged fraud could run into millions.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha SABC1. Sis Bonela, of course, there is so much that we can speak of about the brilliant workings of Mapoisa. But the question that comes to mind, Guti, considering Guti, South Africa, a police officer has 6 times the chance of being killed while SM17 versus a police officer in America, makes you question, Guti, why get into the force? But once you're in the force, what makes Abantu Batembile to actually then become the criminals in a pagative system? I mean, we're looking at the fact that conversation we had with Tato, speak about the effectiveness, the training process. All of this makes us question, Guti, why is the relationship between the public and the police so blurred? In the system. And to have this conversation with us, of course, joining us here is spokesperson for the Minister of Police, which is Liranzu Temba, who joins us there on the line. But in studio, we are joined from the Police and Prison Civil Rights Union, the spokesperson of PAPCRU, which is Umnumzane Richard Mabobolo. Welcome to the show, ladies and gents.
Thanks.
So, now in Kuluma, we're sitting with it and we're speaking about it, especially on the consideration with the police are on the line, their lives are on the line. But even more so now, people are frustrated on the trust element between the police and, of course, the public.
Look, I think part of the challenge has been the long-standing relation between police and communities. You remember that we had a police force, and when it became a police service, there was not much done, which is something we obviously need to deal with, in ensuring that the public changes its perception around how policing is. They knew police to be brutalizing communities, especially black communities. Now that we're in a new dispensation, there has not been effort enough to ensure that we build good working relations. In fact, most communities, the fact that you do have incidents where police would be in the wrong and the communities therefore believing that all police are the same has been part of the challenge as well. So there are numerous factors, of course, that affects the relationship. This is something that definitely needs to get more engagement. But as well, I think from the media side as well. I mean, in most cases, the media would focus on the wrongs. There's nothing wrong with focusing on the wrong things that police do. But whenever there are good activities or actions that are taken by police, you rarely hear of such reports. So we definitely know that a majority of our police officers are committed to serving the people of South Africa, yet there might be those small elements which tend to taint the image of police.
And maybe perhaps bring in Ms. Temba into conversation, Arona. Ms. Temba, the force. I mean, you know, Tato earlier on in the show spoke about there's a zero tolerance attitude that we've got when it comes to the police in South Africa. Is that a license to use unreasonable force?
Zero tolerance. Well, I'm afraid I wasn't able to listen to that conversation before, but I think it's very important to note that when it comes to the police service, there is an absolute zero tolerance when it comes to corruption, when it comes to police brutality, when it comes to just police not conducting themselves within the premise of the law. Your previous guest alluded to the fact that we are guided by the Constitution, which basically really states very clearly what our obligation is to the South African public, which also includes the fact that we have to really just conduct ourselves in a more professional way of just servicing the people of South Africa. So this is what constantly is the message that is being drummed to the men and women in blue, and also just them being guided by the code of conduct in the South African Police Service.
Ms. Temba, just to keep we saw during your lockdown, some of the police using force and not necessarily but serve a community in South Africa. How then do we differentiate because we force trust because they are serving us as local community?
We have to concede that there is a trust deficit when it comes to the public as well as the police service. And this is something that the police service is really trying to rectify. This, of course, stems from years of leadership changes. In your earlier report, you know, showing the public how a police commissioner was behind bars, really, for breaking the law. So this really speaks to what some of the problems that were plaguing the police service, but of course with the leadership of Minister Bigicele, as well as the National Commissioner, General Thetha SABC1, there is that effort to try and rebuild the very important structures that were broken down over the years, and of course also rebuild this very important relationship with the community that has been eroded over the years. So there is that effort to try and really get back the trust, the very important element that is needed, because as you've said, the public needs to have confidence in the police. When they see a policeman or a policewoman in blue, they should be able to approach that man and woman in blue, not fear them.
Maybe Mr. Mangbuze, mina, udlame is a big thing in South Africa. We know that violence is something that is part of our culture, which is ngayifuni. Kodwa kubuhlungu when we see violence being imposed in the homes of amaphoyisa who are in blue and they become the abuser endlini. How is that dealt with emsebenzini when you find out one of your officers is abusive to their wife or even children?
Unfortunately, police are also members of society, and what is happening in society is going to be reflective in what's happening within the police service as well. And with that, the Minister of Police was very, very stern in putting out a message across to all police stations, to all 195,000 police officers, that such acts will not be tolerated. And of course they won't, purely because of the fact that you are, one, going to be facing the full might of the law, as with all other South Africans when they are found to be conducting themselves in such a way. But at the same time, we have internal processes in place that will make sure that you won't even keep your job at that. We cannot be the ones that are supposed to be upholding the law and for us to break the law, especially when it comes to such a sensitive and very important matter as domestic violence. I mean, the numbers are frightening. As you know, South Africa is really just grappling with this very, very terrible enemy that is unfortunately happening behind closed doors. So there is really another zero tolerance when it comes to officers who are, abusing their loved ones. But at the same time, they will face the full might of the law, of course.
Ms. Temba, I like the fact that the spokesperson of Pop Namo Studio, maybe I can your police maybe attempted to participate in criminality?
Look, I think one of the things that you have to look into is to look into the internal factors. There are internal factors, there are external factors, of course. I think within SAPS, there had been measures taken to ensure that those who do wrong are punished. And of course, people might not be aware of that. But when you look at the statistics of IPID, you find that there are a number of police officers who are on a yearly basis charged for wrongdoing. And that is part of the measures that are taken by the SAPS to ensure that there is coordination, there is discipline within police. So there are the such factors. Again, the challenge of leadership as well.
Mr. Marvel, I'd like you to tell 1, 2, 3 into criminality.
Look, we think obviously they might be related to external influences, but as well you would know that conditions of members of the SAPS, and that by the way is not to say that we justify some of the wrong elements within, but the conditions have been quite bad. I think you find police officers who have been working in one post at the lowest levels for over 10 years. There are no promotion policies and all those other organizational challenges that would come about. Just 2 years ago, I think.
Because when we come back from Papacho, we want to extend this conversation. Of course, we'll also be looking at some of the good things that our police are doing. But question because but come back with us after Papacho.
My name is Paul Ntuba. I've been a journalist for more than 25 years. My previous encounters with members of the SAPS as a journalist have always been professional. And even though as a journalist sometimes would ask probing questions, they've never come across as hostile, and they have never ever been physical to me. On the day of my assault, I was doing a story on police visibility to enforce COVID-19 regulations. I took a picture of police while on a patrol, and then they assaulted me. I went to the police station to lay a charge. While I was at the police station, they arrived and then they were conspiring with a lady who was taking my statement on how to write my statement. I took another picture, and then they continued to assault me in the police station, took me down to the cell block and continued to assault me. And they later locked me up on what they said is violation of COVID-19 regulations. I was locked up for 4 hours and then released. After my release, I went to the hospital where I was treated for trauma and my injuries. As a journalist and member of civil society, I think the current policing in South Africa leaves much to be desired. I think police need proper training on how to deal with people and how to handle volatile situation, how to handle protest, and then just to respect members of the community, irrespective of whether they are poor, irrespective of whether they are black, irrespective of their status in society.
We commit ourselves to the creation
of a safe and secure environment
for all the people in South Africa.
Ladies in blue, with only one thing in mind, serving their country and breaking barriers previously reserved for their male counterparts, and sometimes bringing qualities only women can master.
It's possible for everyone that would like to do it, especially females. Females are usually more compassion with animals as well. You see it as a baby, like part of the family.
For others, joining the police service did not only ignite their commitment to serve and protect, but also determination to become the only woman in the provincial mounted unit.
I started to love a horse while I'm still young because I grew at Limpopo and my father have a donkeys. I used to ride a donkeys. Then at the SAPS, I think it's my opportunity to have this opportunity to ride a horse.
Now, 46 years since women were permanently enlisted as full members of the police, young pilots like 26-year-old Stephanie Skippers have found a calling to serve their nation from the skies despite the challenges.
Often if myself and my crew member land somewhere and engage with the community and they approach us to chat to us, they'll always ask the male, oh, are you the pilot? And then they're very surprised when they say, no, actually she's the pilot. And sometimes you actually get quite a derogatory remark, and sometimes people say, oh really, a woman can fly? And yeah, your confidence takes a bit of a knock.
So now I'm getting back to Daily Thetha like SABC1 sithi hleleni indaba sibuka umsebenzi wamaphoyisa, and we're looking at the state of policing in South Africa. You know, before the ad break, Nicolette, we're looking at a person who was, you know, abused, if I would say, or he was violated by a maphoyisa. And that for me is something that we need to look at when you look at the women who are actually doing good, you know. So that one incident takes away the beauty of about besifazane who are in the force, who are doing well. And now that sits on the question, Uguti, are we allowing the frustrations of maphoyisa now in the force to overlook the good work that exists in maphoyiseni?
Yeah, it's quite a contrast. Police brutality on one side, but also serving the community on the other side. And I think maybe it's a great opportunity to have a conversation with Leranzu Temba, who is the spokesperson of the Minister of Police. Leranzu, welcome back to Daily Thetha.
Thank you so much.
And maybe we can talk a little bit about the bite that the police have. Has that been taken away? But also, how then do you balance that bite with really treating the community fairly?
Well, I hope the bite hasn't been taken away. I do hope that the community still feels that the South African Police Service is effective. And I believe that South African Police Service is effective. This is the very reason why we have overcrowded police stations, prisons as we speak. I mean, the prisoners there did not go there voluntarily. They were arrested by the very same men and women in blue. And this obviously speaks to the fact that there is an effective system that is ongoing. We admit that there have been some sort of shortcomings, but those are the very things that are being, brought to the fore, being dealt with. But at the same time, as I've previously mentioned, that the importance of having to account to the community cannot be underestimated. Not only do we have to account to organizations or oversight bodies such as IPID or the Portfolio Committee, but we also have to account to the residents of this country. And that is the very reason why, we have a toll-free number that residents can call, but we also do have a presidential hotline where people can call and report any transgressions and any unfair treatment that they feel is being hampered upon them by police. But as we have said, there's about 195,000 officers. We are bound to have people that are going to go offline, and there are, as I've said, measures being put in place to make sure that those people are brought to book. We have vetting processes. We also, by the way, do have processes where we are looking at lifestyle audits, where we are seeing that, wait a minute, Melody, has a constable salary, but now they are, living a life of a general. How is this possible? So those are the very things that we're putting in place to make sure that people don't collude, or officers don't collude with cartels, don't work with, criminals in order for them to get by.
All right, very interesting. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate the efforts that your ministry is also doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And I think
And I think it's quite interesting what she's just said, because I think the effort is in the news to know what the ministry is doing its part. Yeah.
Nicolette, point and this is where probably we have to bring in, of course, Unumzane Lesiba Tobakale, who is from the National Chief Negotiator at the South African Police Union, into conversation with you. We all see Amapoisa as respectable people because of last week. And I say that because, in a sense, that we need to run to the police. We were taught in the Zingani. But at this stage, we're looking at the imbalances in society. And it's catching abantu bethu, obaba bethu endlini. How far is the transparency when it comes to you, the police station, within the system?
You know, we have to look back at our history, the history of our country, to say how policing was before.
Okay.
Because, you know, previously, when a parent wants to intimidate a child, they will come and say, you know what, I'll call the police for you.
Okay.
And that on its own, it has instilled fear within the communities to view the police other way around. But now, after the new dispensation, within, you know, after 1994, we are seeing a community-based policing. And if we are to ensure that, you know what, we are progressing in how we do things, policing has to be community-based. And by so doing, it means that even our officers out there, they need to take the communities into confidence, even in the homes, so that when somebody sees the police, they can see a safe haven for them to say, these are the people that I can rely on. These are the people that, even if I cannot say anything to my mom or to my dad at home, but I know if I speak to a policewoman or a policeman, I would be able to get assistance. That on its own, if indeed the community and the police, we are to work together, we strongly believe that, you know what, a change will definitely come.
Because when we started off, Karolo and Rebone, you know, these ladies who are in blue and they're doing their part. How important is that representation, especially from Basadi, but also from members of the LGBTQI plus community, who are part of the police force?
Everyone in South Africa is considered to be human. And in terms of policing, there is no specific genders that are supposed to be considered. Whether you are a male, you are a female, even those who come from the LGBTIQ, you know, even they themselves, they have to be inclusive. And that can be done only if the stigma is removed.
Officers are within the system.
Correct, yes, we do have.
But don't you see it might be very helpful? Because I imagine if Kimasadi and maybe I've gone through sexual assault, report to police station, general reputation, the male police sometimes don't understand it or treat it better. But a female might be able to recognize my cry and have a similar...
As well.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of reporting of crimes like rape, as you are mentioning, it is up to the victim to say whom are they comfortable with. If you know, specifically a female who has been raped, there would be a female police officer to assist, so that to cover the issue of them relating better.
Okay.
And then if it is a male, but then if it comes to be that somebody who comes from the LGBTIQ, you know, community, they need somebody who can understand them better.
Yes.
The reservation should be done for them,
Okay,
in order for them to also feel that they are part of community within our country.
I think to make sure that South Africa understands only choice, it is actually a choice that you have at the police station with a different police officer because I might feel comfortable with them.
Yes, Nicolette, there's 1,138 police stations in South Africa. I just wonder how many of them have a female or have a gay representative that I can speak to in that respect ukuthi nami ngikwazi ukuthi ngibe comfortable. Kodwa imibuzo sibuzayo sicela ukuthi sithathe ikhefu bese buya after the ad break sikwazi ukuthi sibuyise lo nkulumo njengoba sihleli nani.
Welcome back to Daily Thetha. Ke yona karolo ya mafelelo today in our conversation about the state of police by South Africa. But that was a quite interesting one to be able to see gore maphoyisa le bona ke batho man.
Yeah, it is. And according to Nicolette, you know, sometimes if you meet an officer on duty, and it makes your day. And it's not all gloom and in the big pair.
Yeah, and I think also it will move from that force to that community-based policing that Lisiba spoke about just before the ad break. Very, very interesting. But we are still staying with Richard Mamabolo, who's the spokesperson of Pop Crew, and also Lisiba Tobagolo, who is the chief negotiator at the South African Police Union. Richard, maybe I can come to you. Ributi say the conversation in the Ritwere before Papa Jorubulela Katabaya representation. Lona Eco Pop Crew, do you ensure that representation is actually evident to go to different types of police stations? Go to police stations around South Africa?
No, we definitely do. In fact, besides being in the SAPS, Pop Crew has got its own programs of ensuring that we obviously improve relations with communities. We're working with a foundation called Safer South Africa Foundation, where we, for example, with the current challenge of gender-based violence, we go out with SSAF to different communities. We work with high schools and primary schools, engaging young people around them understanding the criminal justice system in its entirety. So you would have, for example, the legal fraternity, police, traffic officials going into having different lessons where we also want to build up the kind of relationship that will ensure, for example, with GBV, that young men from the young age, they do understand the role of women, they understand that we are all equal, and of course in building such foundations for communities. So definitely representation is quite a big issue for us. It's something that we've been focused on for the past 10 years or so.
Representation, and I really like the GBV conversation. But let's just stay quickly with the LGBTQI. Is the South African police homophobic?
Not necessarily. I think, like everybody else has said, that they obviously abide by the Constitution. And every citizen, regardless of what gender you are or what sexual orientation you believe in, everybody should have equal rights. And that is what we seek to promote all the time.
Nice.
And as we sit and we're looking, I mean, video and we're seeing Amapoisa, you know, in a juvenile manner. Does that take away, does that take away the trust from the seniors in Mapoiseni? But the young ones who are coming in seem to be on Instagram posting fun things. Do you feel like they take away the power that a police officer should have?
Not at all. Police officers are human beings as well. And you see, somebody being so jovial in that way, it means that they are enjoying what they are doing.
Nice.
They are enjoying, you know, relating with the communities out there. That is what we need, not to see, you know, people who are grumpy. Can we imagine always, when you are working, you have to be grumpy. But if you are happy, it means that even the members of the community, it is easy for them to even approach you for assistance, and the work will be done appropriately and swiftly so.
Just a quick one. GBV is a very big problem in South Africa. How are you guys working together with government to create the right strategies within the police sector to deal with GBV?
As SAPU, you know, we see the issue of the gender-based violence to be a societal problem.
Okay.
Before, you know, we could downsize it to certain levels, but it is at large a societal problem. And we need to deal with it as a societal problem to say, you know what, all of us, all the genders, we need to ensure that we do not form part or we don't become the perpetrators in terms of the, you know, of being found to be dealing or to be found wanting in terms of the GBV.
At a police level, at the police level, you go a society, but the reality is that sometimes our sisters are re-victimized.
Exactly. Maybe
I think as Pop Crew, at a practical level, the measures we have taken was to ensure that we provide training for our gender coordinators. We've got gender coordinators across the country. And what has since been done, I think when you look at statistics, crime statistics the past 2 years, you would have seen that there was a small number of women who report such challenges within stations. And since we've noticed that, we have obviously ensured that our gender coordinators and our shop stewards at every level of the police stations take up measures to get trained. We've provided that training for them. And what we have seen in the recent past, I think the recent statistics has been growing statistics demonstrating that there are more women going to police stations to report these matters. It speaks to two things. Firstly, that they are beginning to take it seriously. And secondly, that the environment within police stations with the assistance that we've been providing to our members has actually effected some form of change because more people are able to then engage on the matter.
I think. On the show, and that's where it is. But on social media, you can continue the conversation as we do this Monday to Friday, 10:30 to 11:30.
Report police corruption and celebrate those who are doing well.
Sibonge.